Howdy y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Stay Creative Podcast, a show dedicated to highlighting talented artists and letting them share with us tips and encouragement for staying creative in our art and lives. The show is recorded live weekly at the Indie Music Feedback Discord server, and to best serve time and clarity, some content is cut for the recorded and released version. If you want to get in on the live experience and part of the conversation, come over to the Discord anytime. It is a very welcoming community dedicated to helping artists refine and sharpen their skills. This week we were talking with Murr. He's a producer and artist from the Netherlands who has really been blowing people away with his music and his ear for production. We'll talk about the who, what, and why of his artistic journey so far, and he will share some tips and encouragement from his own experience creating. So stick around. First and foremost, Murr, I want to thank you for talking with me today. I am super pumped to get into your music, and I believe everybody listening may be even more pumped to get into that, and they probably want me to hurry up and get to the music part. But I like to first start with, of course, getting to know you a little better. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a good way to put some context behind the art that we're going to be talking about. So again, Murr, thanks a ton for talking with me. I want to start off by going over just some basic background. Let's start with, like, where did you grow up?
Okay, so I grew up in like a small village next to Nijmegen. It's like it's a pretty nice. I've sent some pictures of that place in the general chat some time ago. It's a pretty how do you say that? Like a pretty green area, pretty calm, pretty relaxed. I'm not that much of a city guy, even though right now I live in the city. But I'm planning to like move back to that area someday. If I'm done here, I will go back. And my mom and dad got like divorced when I was pretty young. And I have a sister. And my dad is like this. This will sound pretty funny because my dad is like an acoustics engineer in Eindhoven. It's a university. And back in the day when I was little, my dad always taught me these acoustics, these little acoustic stuff. But I didn't really listen back then because I was still a kid. I didn't really care for that stuff. Now that I'm older, I really, really care for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to, like, when I just started out making music, I constantly had to call him with like the basic fundamentals about sound design because he knew that stuff and he taught me that, but I just forgot about it. So yeah.
That's excellent that you kind of, even later in life, have that connection with him. You grew up kind of in like a rural area, nature adjacent, I'd call it. But you want to go back to that. Are you living in a city now? Or?
Yeah, I'm living in Tilburg right now.
Okay.
And that's like a city with a lot of students. Right now I study a master in sociology/philosophy in Tilburg University.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I actually really hate the city. I actually talked with Soren Leaf about this because Soren Leaf has a bit like the same issue as me, where he moved to like a city and he doesn't really like the people there. Well, I have the same right now, so I'm just planning to go back someday. Yeah. You
mentioned that you're currently in school for sociology and philosophy. Is that like a double major, or is that a single thing that you're studying that touches on both?
Yeah, it's a single major. It's not a double major because I'm way too lazy for that. No, it's like a single thing, and we study like officially it's called online culture. And we study the effects the internet has on the public space and public discourse.
Okay.
And with that, we also use a lot of philosophy to ask ourselves the question: what ought to happen? How does public discourse? What does it look like right now? And what ought we to change about public discourse to make it more healthy and to make the flow of information more accessible to everyone?
Man, that's excellent. I feel like each person I've gotten into this type of background with from IMF has observed and found a passion in caring better for our society and just humanity in general. And I feel like that's an excellent thing. That it's hard for me to imagine going into that sort of field specifically to make big paychecks.
Oh, I don't even know if I can get like a job with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like But what you're saying, I also see that like a lot of people in IMF are very engaged with society and with one another. I don't know. Maybe it's like a musician thing or something.
Yeah.
Most musicians I met in here are very, very compassionate. And really think about others, and I really like that.
Yeah, art definitely. I like to say it makes the world a smaller place. You know, like recently, somebody in the IMF Discord turned me on to a type of music called banda. I guess it's called banda, maybe. And it's
never heard of that.
It's all in Spanish. I don't speak a single word of Spanish, but I love the music so much that I now want to visit Mexico. You know, the world has become smaller because I found or was introduced to a new type of art and music, and I feel like you can only have that experience so many times before you stop seeing the world as nations. You know, you stop seeing the world as. Yeah. As these bigger ideas, so that's really interesting. So
it's also really to add to that. It's also really cool to see like how much overlap you have with others who don't even live close to you, right? For example, if I talk to Mark, he lives in America, but we actually have a lot of stuff in common. So that's so enlightening for me. Like the place where you're coming from doesn't really matter. You know, it's like it's more the interests you have and the kind of person you are, and that's
one of the main things that I love about doing these interviews, these talks, is I get to experience your life for a moment. You and I, without IMF, without this conversation, without music bringing us together, we never in a million years would have met. We never would have exchanged ideas,
Nope. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in addition to music, do you? I'm sorry. In addition to school and music, do you have a job, like a day job or anything that you do?
Well, I do like these some freelance stuff on the side, and mostly I just make music and study basically.
Yeah.
I have like side hustle stuff, like I design stuff, I edit stuff sometimes.
Oh, cool.
Because before this I did like a film school. So sometimes I like edit these little things for people who pay me. And that right now for me that's enough to get by. So that's what I do. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. That's the working for yourself, I think, plays a role in the discipline required, both to obviously get complete school. Nobody's making you do school. You've really got to make yourself do that. But also to make just music that is as in-depth and excellent as yours.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I do my best. I'm really... If only you guys knew like how many failed projects I actually have.
Well, I don't... There's no such thing to me as like a failed project. It's those were the stepping stones you took to get to the next release.
That's true. Yeah.
So it takes some real discipline and some real maturity to decide which ones to put out in the world. When I first started making music, I released every song I wrote.
That's actually pretty cool.
Well, they were bad. They were all bad. But
no, but it's really cool to like if someone then goes to your profile, they can actually see your artistic progress, right? So that's in a way it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly some value to every approach, I'd say.
Exactly.
But I want to talk some more just about your own personal background before we get. I feel like music it keeps forcing its way into this conversation. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
I gotta hold my horses a little bit. What are some of your non-musical hobbies? So what are you doing? Obviously, you're studying. You're doing side hustle stuff, and you're turning out music. But what are some of your other hobbies?
I'd say. Well, actually, I game a little bit. And I really like reading. And other than that, I don't know. That's kind of it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my life.
Well, hey, on the topic of reading, I love asking just for suggestions. Obviously, if it's putting you on the spot, you can pass. But what's a book you'd suggest everybody check out?
Oh, definitely Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know that book. It's actually pretty accessible. It's a very thin book.
Okay.
It's like this book. It has like two parts to it. It's about a psychologist who got put away in a concentration camp in the Second World War. And the first part of the book is about him in the concentration camp, and the second part is about him coming to terms with what happened there and what made him survive.
Gotcha.
And he has like a lot of really, really nice insights about psychology, about human nature, stuff like that. It's really nice, especially if you're in a very bad place in your life. Pick it up. It's so accessible, and it helped me so much in my life. So yeah, it's also a reread. I've already read it like 3 times or something, but it's a great book.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that recommendation. I love the kind of books that stay with you and you can apply to life later on. You know, like. You said if you're going through a bad time, it's a good read, but eventually a bad time's coming. It's just the nature of being alive. So having that book in your arsenal couldn't hurt.
Yeah, it's the same with Camus. I don't know if you've read Camus. He's like this French philosopher / author back in the 1940s. He was like he wrote like books about absurdity, about the absurdity of life, and. It's a bit like that. It's about existentialism. It's about like, how can you push forward in a world that doesn't have any meaning.
That's interesting. Even if you don't believe that all the time, sometimes you will. So that's cool. I'll check that one out too. I appreciate both of those suggestions.
Yeah, it's great, man. Really recommend it for anybody. It's really accessible.
Yeah, accessibility. Honestly, when you said the title of the first one, "Man's Search for Meaning," I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds light. No, but like knowing
that's the thing, right? It's like it's very dark and very depressing, but at the same time, it's accessible for anyone who is open to feel that kind of emotion, right? So the way it's been written,
for sure.
For Camus, it's very accessible for every reader who wants to pick it up. So that's what I also think that it's great about those books. You don't have to plow through the pages, right? You don't have to pay a lot of attention. It goes automatically. I love that.
Obviously, that book seems very philosophical. It seems like the kind of thing you may have come across in your school time. Were you into philosophy and stuff before school, or was that something you got into after getting enrolled in college, university?
Definitely. Well, before I did film school, and we had like a philosophy teacher there, who was called Jeroen. And he was such a cool guy, and he really introduced me to philosophy and to deeper concepts and how to think about those concepts. And I loved that so much that I actually wanted to do something with it. So he actually created a spark in me.
There's a quote, "You can only love something if someone teaches you to love it." And I feel like good teachers, they are people who teach you how to love something, philosophy or music or whatever it might be. That's
definitely,
it's fantastic.
So also, what is it with history teachers and philosophy teachers? I've never had like a bad history teacher, for example. They're all so great.
I absolutely agree. All of my history teachers made me think I wanted to become a history teacher.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It's true. I've personally never had a philosophy teacher, but I take your word for it that they are kind of the same way. And I guess it's just a love for the art. I know whenever I have the opportunity to teach someone something I love, be some sort of musical concept or Dungeons and Dragons, as everybody knows, I get so into teaching it. It becomes like a passion. Just the teaching becomes a passion for me at that point. So.
Oh damn! Yeah, I totally see what you mean.
Yeah,
you also feel like sort of a teacher to me sometimes in chat. So like sometimes you, I don't know, you like to talk about stuff. You like to talk about stuff you love.
Yeah. I think everybody does to some extent. I appreciate that. I have a lot of respect for teachers, so I'll take that as a compliment.
I think you're a teacher.
Thank you. So let's kind of transition from some of this background into some of the more musical aspects of your growing up, I want to talk about some of the music and art that played a role in creating, your influences. So I often think of the music and art that we enjoy as the ingredients in the soup that we make as our own art, So that being said, who are some of your earliest influences, musical or otherwise?
Okay, with earliest you mean like the first music I ever got into, or the first music that sparked Murr?
I'll take both answers. Honestly, I feel like you probably have a reason to ask the question, and I will take whatever form the answer comes in.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I think most people first get really into contact with music in high school, right? So you get like this MP3 player, you cycle to school, and you have like these plugs in, and you start to figure out music, right? So, or rather, you start to figure out your own sort of music. You're sort of exploring who you are, what genres fit you, stuff like that. And for me, that really was Rammstein, Metallica, Iron Maiden, stuff like that. No, not really Iron Maiden, by the way. Only Fear of the Dark, whatever. Metallica, stuff like that, metal. And that later sort of evolved into punk rock more and hardcore punk. And then when I went away from high school, I started to delve deeper into hip hop and stuff like Tyler the Creator, for example. He had like for the first time he had like his album back then, and I actually really liked that. I was really how do you say that? Let's see, how do you say that? Really judgmental on people who listened to hip hop back then. I was very I wasn't really open to it, but when I left high school and I was outside of this groupthink, I suddenly became more open for more genres and stuff.
Yeah, I have a very similar history. I've opened up that for a while I kind of just looked down on everything that wasn't punk rock. Everything that wasn't my favorite music. I was like, it's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I completely know what you mean, and I feel like that is so kind of ubiquitous across that high school experience because divisiveness is just part of culture. Like they want you to feel like your identity is the things you like and the things you wear, as opposed to the eternalness of a human soul. You know what I mean? Or humanity at large. Like it's crazy.
It's also like if you think back, anyone who thinks back at high school will certainly remember like the tribalism going on, right?
Yes.
It's like all these little tribes, and every tribe had like their own little genre, stuff like that. And in my high school, like the metalheads and the punk rockers really looked down on the people who listened to like this pleb music, right? So when like someone walked through the hallways and had like a pop song on or something, they would like talk down on the person and stuff like that, just to fit in and just to elevate themselves above other people, And I did that too. I still feel kind of bad about it, but I don't do that anymore. So
that's excellent. I love knowing that kind of early experience of just encountering music. So coming from that back to you asking me which answer I wanted, I'd now like to know a little bit more about what did spark Murr, or what got you creating.
So there was like this this day I remember when I woke up and I had like a song in my head, and I sang it for my mom, and I was like, what song is this? And then she said, I don't know. And I thought, well, what song is this? And then the next day I woke up with another song in my head. Really, really strange. Out of nowhere that happened. I got some like little jingles in my head. My mom said, yeah, I had that too when I was younger. I always had like little jingles in my head, but it didn't really exist. So it was like, damn, I want to start composing. But I was a drummer, right? So if you're a drummer, you can really put like jingles out. So I knew my friend back then, Jeremiah is his name. He's still a friend of mine. He made like beats with Ableton, and I was like, damn, I want to learn that. So I hit him up and I said, can you teach me? And it was in summer. So I went to his place and he learned me the ropes. And the first thing I actually did was a project called Soul Invictus. It was like a two-man project. So, like he was on the knobs, he did like everything with Ableton, and I told him what to do, right? So because I didn't understand the program, so I said like, yeah, do this, do that, do this, and then he would like put it into Ableton, and he would like create the music, and it sprung off my idea. So that was that. But then after that, he sort of started quitting music. He didn't really like it anymore, and I was like, damn, I want to keep creating, right? So then I started Murr. Yeah, that's how Murr actually sort of spawned. Yeah.
That's crazy. So your earliest music making was actually as kind of a collaboration, and someone else did the tracks, like for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, someone else did the musicking, and I did like the I was like the director or something.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So I guess though that's a really interesting way to learn how to make the music. You know, you are skipping the part where you can't get the sounds out of your head. You're able to communicate the sound to someone who knows how to make them. You know, so you're able to learn that step by step through watching. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's also, it was also a really nice process to learn the ropes from like these different programs he used. He was like, "It's very easy," he told me, and I looked at Ableton, and I was like, "No, it's not. It's not easy."
Yeah.
Ableton is a pretty hard program to get into, but if you really get into it, it's the best, man. It's awesome.
Huh.
I'm really thankful for my friend actually that he wanted to show me that. I think he had like, it took him like 20 hours to learn me that stuff, and he took the time of day to help me. So it's really cool.
Oh man, when you get that feeling, you got to send somebody a text. So when we're done with this talk, you be sure to text him and tell him thanks.
That's a good idea, actually. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, good.
He's also a night owl, so I can do that right now.
He goes
to bed at like 3, so yeah.
Awesome.
But in terms of music, like what inspires me, what sort of music inspires me, I'd say like stuff that's really dense and really plays with the acoustics, with fake acoustics and with fake panoramics. So, stuff like Lorne, for example, Arca, stuff like Cuedo. I don't know if you guys know Cuedo. He spelled it like this.
Oh, mercy.
He actually
Kuedo. If somebody
or something.
If somebody told me they had a black belt in Kado, I'd believe them. I'd be like, "Oh, that sounds sounds scary."
Well, actually, Cuedo actually helped me with a lot of stuff. When I was just starting out, I sent him like little messages on Facebook, and he actually responded to those. That was really cool.
That's an excellent feeling for sure. That's great.
It was super encouraging. When I sent him my first song, and he was like, "Oh, damn, that's really cool, man. Keep going." And he gave me like tips and stuff. So that's a tip I would like to give you guys is if you're a fan of someone and he's somewhat approachable in terms of followers, hit him up.
Yeah,
hit her up.
Yeah.
They mostly just respond, and they mostly are open to talking to you and actually give you feedback on stuff. It's really cool.
Is that the kind of music you're into right now, or was that kind of more your earliest stuff? What's really inspiring you?
Yeah, that's what I'm into right now.
Right now, okay,
still.
yeah. That's cool.
And also stuff like Alan Moore. Let's see. There's so much. I also really like Travis Scott. His beats are really cool. Just dreamy stuff, I think.
Yeah. So are there any artists that are kind of, I don't want to say necessarily local, like from your town, but are there any artists from your region of the world that maybe information about them has not reached the U.S. or other parts of the world yet that you are really enjoying?
Well, there's this guy called Boo Boo. I don't know if he still makes music, actually. He was a friend of Jeremiah. I think he lives in Amsterdam or something. He made like these amazing trap songs. They're literally super good. And they were just like, they had like 2K views or something on YouTube. And I was like, how is this possible? But yeah, he's a Dutch guy. I don't know him personally, but he's really good.
Yeah, that's excellent. I feel like a lot of the artists you just mentioned are all things I've not heard before. So it'll be cool to look those up, and I imagine a lot of our folks, listening in are going to have something to listen to tonight too. So that's cool.
Yeah, they're pretty experimental with the way stuff sounds.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love when people experiment with synthesizers, with how the room sounds, that kind of stuff.
Let's pretend for a moment you find a gold in your yard. You're digging. You're going to plant a flower. You find gold. You're now super rich. What is the first purchase you would make for your musical production setup?
Oh man. That will have to be a DX7. Yeah. DX7 synthesizer for sure.
Nice.
Definitely a DX7. I would buy that one on immediately. If I found money in my garden, oh my god, I will instantly buy that from Amazon.
That's awesome.
I admit it's a very shitty synthesizer, but I love it. I love it.
So it's more of a like, you like the way it sounds, not necessarily its top of the line newest thing.
Yeah, it's a terrible synth to program. It sounds, actually, technically speaking, it sounds really bad, but I don't know. I just love it.
That's awesome. So it's more of a collector's purchase than like an actual.
Yeah, it's a collector thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's awesome. That's I'm gonna accept that as an answer to the question, even though I don't know
I
that
just
you
want to have one.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. I don't know
just
that
wanna
you
have
use
one in
that to
my room.
make your
When
next.
people walk in, they're like, "Oh my god, is that a DX7?" And I'm like, yeah, it's a DX7.
You turn it into a necklace like Flava Flav. You have a whole DX7 hanging around your neck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just showing them how you live. That's cool, man.
But I would also, because I if I would find a lot of money, I can actually buy another synthesizer. I'd buy the synthesizer. I forgot the name, but I'd buy the synthesizer from Lorne.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what it's called, but it's a very nice synthesizer, very modern also. But it's also analog, so it sounds pretty warm.
We spent the gold we found, and from there, I do want to move into more specific track talk, about some of your stuff online. But before we get too detailed, I want to give you a moment just to explain to me and to anybody listening, what is it that you make? I make very dreamy synthesizer music that often has like this modern edge to it, like trap beats are sometimes underneath, pretty punchy kicks sometimes just ambient. It's like I'd say it comes a little bit close to Lorne in a way. It's a bit Lorne-ish, but it's more. It has like, it's pretty. It's hard to explain. It's like melodic, dreamy trap or something. I don't know. Yeah. Having listened to your music, I wouldn't have put those labels on it, but now that you have, I'm like, oh yeah, that's absolutely a good description of what I'm hearing. So that's cool. And also, what do you use to make it? You've already talked some about Ableton and some synthesizers and things. What all are your just go-to softwares or gear that you really like using?
So I still use Ableton because it's the only thing I know, and I hear it's really good, so I just stuck with that. And secondly, I have like a MIDI controller, an Advanced 49. It's just MIDI. It's not like an analog synthesizer or something. It's just like a controller with like little drum pads on top, with like little knobs, stuff like that. So I can control stuff with my hands. I like to control stuff, automate stuff with my hands. I like to like work with my hands.
Well, and you said you started on drums, right?
Yeah. First I played drums, and then when I moved over to Tilburg, I didn't have any place for my drums anymore, so I was really sad. That's when I really started making beats.
Yeah.
I just had to do something, right? Like I couldn't drum here, so I needed to do something else. So I started to play synthesis, stuff like that. Yeah, and
it's cool that you I feel like finding a way to use your hands, like you were saying, to make the digital music. That definitely sounds like something a drummer would want to do.
Oh yeah,
still keeping a progressive.
It's a tactile experience, right? You want to feel the knobs.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. So, getting a little bit more of the background of just your your artistic history and also your setup, how it is that you make and what it is that you work to make. I want to transition into talking some about the specifics of some of your tracks. So as soon as I went to your SoundCloud page, even the layout of the tracks and the images all felt like a curated experience in a way that was enjoyable. I started pretty much just at the top. Yeah, absolutely. I started pretty much.
It's cool that you say that, because it's sort of like my goal to have like this consistent little story with like different pictures on my SoundCloud. It's cool to see that you noticed that.
Huh. Yeah. I'm also glad I noticed that. Sometimes I feel like I read too deep into things, so it's cool to know that you were going for that. Is there a shareable, a communicatable story to some of that, like that you could share, or is it more the images as they transition are kind of telling the entirety of what you're trying to communicate?
Yeah, it's like I try to. All the pictures you see on my channel are made by myself. And what I usually do is like I take a picture and I try to make a song around that picture. So it's like the picture always is a bit tied to like the song you're hearing.
How do you make the pictures? A lot of them seemed like photographs with a little bit of editing that may have been done, and some of them seemed like just completely fabricated images that were never photographs. So how do you make those?
I have two are fabricated. So the first one that's fabricated is the one for Soren Leaf Life is Everyday soundtrack Volume 3. That one I made with like I made like a picture of like a paint in a sink, and I put that one over another photo. So that's that.
That's actually one of the ones that my eye was drawn to the most. It's cool. I definitely dig your just precision of the entire experience. You're making more than sound. You are making a song, and you really package it up nicely in a way that is accessible and enjoyable beginning to end. The entire experience.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, I think I'm not the decider on it, but I feel safe whenever I say you definitely are.
I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. So the first track that comes on whenever I went on your Spotify was Cloud Sculptor.
Yeah.
And I was wearing my decent headphones, and it was like the music like was in the room with me. It was like it was live music happening nearby.
Awesome.
Including in maybe a less awesome way, there were some snaps throughout the song that made me look over.
I know exactly which ones you mean.
Yeah, they made me look over my shoulder. I thought someone was literally in the room. I wanted to talk some about how you choose, capture, or just otherwise acquire the sounds that you use.
So most of the little snaps you hear in that song are actually my voice, who says ah. But I put a vocoder on there with a noise gate, so they sound really weird.
Yeah.
Really. Almost as if they're there, right? So almost as if someone is like ticking a cans or something on the left, over your left shoulder. And how I do that, how I create like panoramic sounds, is like sculpting where firstly sculpting where the sound is in the stereo spectrum, and then very carefully adjusting the reverb, so it actually sounds like it's in your room. But that one was not on purpose, because I just threw that one in there, and it was totally out of nowhere. Everyone who I sent the song to said that to me. Like, I heard like these little clicks, and I turned to my left.
Yeah,
so it's really funny that you also heard that.
That's awesome. So there's some like, I guess, some serendipity involved. Like, you were putting the sound in there intentionally, but then it ended up being something a little bit more in depth than maybe you originally intended.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
That's cool. What about other stuff? Do you does Ableton just have a bunch of like built-in plugins and instruments and things that you use, or how do you go about composing?
Well, actually, I make pretty much everything from scratch in synthesis. Every sound, everything you hear is synthesis except for the drums and the 808s. Usually I get really lazy with 808s and I just throw in like samples or something. So also in the Cloud Sculptor, the 808s, I didn't make those myself. I just used like a sample. But everything else around that is synthesis I made myself, yeah. If someone like asks me like how do you create a synth, or how do you get like good in synthesis, I usually say like just throw like a lot of effects on there and just see what happens. Just mess around, you know. Just play with it. Like it's like if you're in a sandbox when you were little, right? So you just start messing around and suddenly you have like this castle, right? It's something like that. It's just playing with the sounds, like trying to enjoy the process of like creating wacky stuff. That's actually that's actually the only thing you need. The only thing you need is curiosity and just turning knobs and seeing what happens.
It's a fantastic approach, and I feel like it in a lot of ways disarms the anxiety of trying to start learning, you know?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
It's actually also how I first I made beats with Jeremiah, my friend. But when I got into Murr, it was more like a natural process. I just started to mess around with sounds. I just wanted to make cool stuff, like little synthesis, little sounds, little stuff. And then slowly from that, the song building came. So it actually started with making sounds. That's actually the origin of Murr. So yeah.
It plays a part in how refined the sounds that you create and use for your tracks are, because they were made for their own sake.
Yeah. Usually, I don't know how you guys work in IMF. I actually don't know, but like usually what I usually do is first I make the synth, and then I make the melody for the synth. But maybe some people do the other way around. Maybe some people first make a melody or like a little loop, and then they add like the synthesizer. But for me, it's the other way around. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I feel like it's super common for people to all have a different approach. But I feel like there's a lot of value in hearing an approach that might sound opposite and crazy to you and just trying it, just for the sake of seeing what comes out, you know?
Yeah. I encourage everyone to try it someday. It's really nice.
That's cool.
It's also really free, because if you don't have any ideas, you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to turn some knobs and see what happens, you know? The only thing you need is having a killer taste. You need to have good taste.
I wanted to talk about another one of your tracks, because as soon as I think as soon as Cloud Sculptor was over, the track More Than Ever started. And it again, wearing like headphones, it felt fully three-dimensional. It felt like I was in a movie theater, like having, you know, the sound come at me in a way that was almost physically tangible. Like I could
awesome,
feel
man.
it touching parts of my brain in strange ways. That sounds weirder than I meant for it to sound.
No, I totally get you. That's sort of like the goal with Murr, I think. Like, I want to create like atmospheric stuff.
It's very much
really cool.
a sonic experience, you know, and I like that. But I want to talk, how do you make the choices when you're actually doing that mixing part and the panning, and how do you get that full three-dimensional experience feel going each time you make a track?
Let's see. There are a lot of different elements going into that, so I'm not quite sure where to start. Let's start with first you need to understand the fundamentals of like sound design. So for example, I think a lot of people in IMF already know that kind of stuff. So for example, the bass should be in the middle, for example. Like the snare should mostly also be in the middle. Vocals should also be in the middle, stuff like that. And then along the way you sort of like intuitively understand how wide sounds can be. For example, hi-hats can be very wide. Hi-hats can be all the way to the left or all the way to the right, or both to the left and the right, stuff like that. But also reverb. If you have if you throw like reverb on vocals, for example, you can make the reverb really wide, so the vocals stay in the middle, and the reverb envelops the entire stereo spectrum in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really I think reverb is key. Reverb is key.
Would you say it makes the most sense to find where you want the sound panned and then work with the reverb, or the other way around? Get the instrument sounding reverbed appropriately in the center and then find where you want it in the room?
Well, most of the time, the placement of the instruments, so where they are in the room or how close they are or how far they are, is wholly dependent on the mix for me. So, for example, if I already have like a tambourine on the right, then I will move my rim shot to the left. You know, it's like a little mosaic. You try to give everything breathing space.
Yeah.
So where certain stuff is located, I don't really care for that. I just want to have everything. I want everything to be in the right place, and then it's fine.
Gotcha. I see. So, I guess when I'm hearing this three-dimensional experience, that is just what your ear has told you is the right location.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Just
so
totally. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Like most of the rooms or most of the panoramic stuff and most of the rooms I create don't make sense at all. That also might be why it sounds a bit dreamy in a way, because it doesn't make sense. Like every instrument has a different kind of reverb on it. Some has small reverb, other stuff has big reverb.
Yeah.
And it all comes together in like this weird, undefinable room that can never exist in real life. I think that's sort of like the secret to like a panoramic sound, I guess. For me at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes back to what you said about taste. Like you are just executing your taste.
That's also the case for a lot of mixing decisions you make. So a lot of people, this is really funny to me. A lot of people in IMF are very unsure about their mixes. They say like I don't know if my mix is good. I need to tweak it a little, stuff like that. But most of the time, their mixes sound absolutely fire. But it's really hard to hear that from your own mix. It's really strange. Like almost if everything else sounds better than your mix, right? But it's very, very, very subjective. So
after being on your page for a little while, your track "The Long Way Home" started, and it felt different from your other songs. In kind of a tone way, but it still felt very dreamy and very precise, the way that your other music has kind of established as part of your sound.
That one actually has a pretty pretty big story to it, actually. So that song is actually okay. So this song has a story to it. So my friend had back in the day, like 2 years ago, had cancer in his knee. And me and my other friends, we went to Oslo, in Sweden or Norway, I can't remember. And we were like in like this garden with like these statues about human suffering, and we got a phone call from my friend who stayed at home, and he said like, "You guys need to go back right now because I'm dying." So we packed our stuff and we drove back to the Netherlands, one way back. And I actually made a very short field recording inside of that van. And I used the field recording from that moment. I used that to create every synth in that song. So I chopped that little field recording of a few seconds. I made with my mobile phone. I created every synthesizer you hear. I created from that small snippet of sound.
That's a beautiful way to memorialize a moment, but also remember your friend.
Yeah, that was the idea. It's like music is pretty therapeutic in a way. Like, I don't know. It was really, really weird to make for me, but it was also very, very relieving when I was done with it. It was like a big relief. Something fell off my shoulders or something.
Wow. Yeah. Well, the question I wanted to ask about that track specifically, or your sound kind of based on that track. I feel like you've already given me more than I could have asked for with that answer. It's really good to know. I don't know, just the fact that creative people across the board, they're people. We're all kind of experiencing loss and pain and life in the same ways, and we're all dealing with it different ways. And I'm really grateful you shared that with us.
Yeah, it's like a story I always want to share with people if they listen to that one. It's also in a technical sense, it's also really cool to try that out someday. So, like, take a small snippet from like something you recorded that you really loved, and try to make like synthesizers from that. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's a interesting way to kind of challenge yourself. If it's not something you've already tried. That song may be kind of a unique experience in concept and what it was that gave you the idea and the material. But how do you usually come up with ideas, or what inspires you to make a new song? Or like I kind of noticed about this one being a kind of different tone, what is it that makes you create something new?
Usually, my driving force is usually being emotional about something most of the time. But then, do you know like that weird headspace you get in when you're playing something repetitive for yourself? You get in like this weird headspace for yourself. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I usually have that. Like I play something repetitive on my MIDI keyboard, and then I turn on some knobs until it sounds right, and then I get in like this weird ass zone until I find something that sounds right, and then I build everything around that. That's usually how I start making stuff, and that's also usually what inspires me.
Yeah. So you just kind of take a headlong deep dive into a feeling, a sensation, and see what you come out with.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Just yeah, I let the synthesizer guide me in a way. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. It's for a long time, humans have sat in circles and played drums and entered dreamlike trance states and things together, all kind of around music and art, and that's cool that you're keeping that alive, but also very much reinventing it.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Yeah,
it's a bit like those mantra musics, or the trance music.
Yeah,
so it's something like that. But then a bit more dynamic. Like I turn knobs, right? But I constantly play the same. I play the same riddle that sounds nice, and then I slowly mold it into something that sounds cool.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I sort of inspire myself in a way, but I also get really inspired by listening to stuff from IMF, actually. Sometimes when I hear a song, I'm like, damn it, I need to really step up my game.
Mm-hmm.
That helps too.
Iron sharpens iron,
yeah,
that
definitely.
Expression. Yeah, I like that. That being explored a little bit more, I want to ask you one of my favorite questions that I try to fit into every talk. Why do you create? Why do you spend time creating these synthesizers and putting yourself in a meditative state, all to craft these songs and make this music?
I just like to discover what I can do, and I like to tell people a story. I think I just want to put something in the world that people appreciate. And then that's it, basically.
Do you ever think about putting the story into more of a continuation and making it a little more up front, or are you kind of okay with these stories being moments, to experience, and then another moment comes along?
Well, usually that was the case. Usually I put out like a new little contemporary story like every few months or something. Like, but right now I'm trying my best to create an album. It's really hard to finish it actually. But in that album I want to create like this like the songs. I want the songs to flow over into one another, so it becomes like this one big narrative. That's my new goal. That's something I want to try.
I really like the way music feels when it has that at its core, kind of a theme, a continuous narrative. I like that. I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear your take on it.
That's what I appreciate in for example, Kendrick Lamar's "Good Kid, Mad City." It feels like this continuous experience from beginning to end. That's what I really, really love about that album. I love it when albums do that. And
I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I want to be respectful of your time. I'm grateful for it. I would like.
That's okay, man. I have nothing to do right now. So.
It is midnight. Yeah, I want to give you a moment to shout out your online locations. I know. I've got you on Twitter and Instagram, but where else should people find you?
Well, on SoundCloud. I don't use Twitter that much. Just Instagram and SoundCloud basically. There was one. There was this lately. There was like this this lady from America who gave me like $25 out of nowhere, and I was like, "Holy shit, awesome!"
Yeah.
She found me through IMF. That was so cool.
That is super cool. Yeah. That's for a college student with a side hustle. That's finding gold in your yard, man. That's excellent.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah. If you have any things that you wish you could have fit into the conversation, any questions you wish I had asked you, let's go over that. What would you like to tell the community, both listening live right now and people who may find this recording in 100 years?
Well, firstly, I want to thank Pax and Valps, of course, for creating this community, because this has honestly been like the hands down the best Discord I've ever been taking part of. Best community ever, hands down. And I also wanted to take my time, because a lot of people already have been shouted out, and I don't want to forget people, so I will leave the shout outs. However, I want to still shout out two people who don't often who aren't often in the chat. The first guy is Pombo. He makes awesome music. He isn't in the chat often. He's more behind the scenes. But he made like this song called "Cracked," and I almost cried from that song. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, Pax also loves Pombo. Pombo also won an IMF Grammy. He isn't a lot in the chat, but he makes amazing stuff. You guys should totally check him out.
Yeah, he's worth going to find.
Yeah, and secondly, I want to shout out another person who isn't in the chat that often. That's Flint's Ego. Flint's Ego makes like this podcast called The Ego Speaks. And for everyone who's a music nerd, go check that shit out. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Also, if you're an art nerd, check out his Instagram. He's been posting
drawings.
His artworks are awesome. Yeah, so good. He's a person of quality, I'll say. I don't want to be accused of blowing anybody's ego up, especially a guy with the name Ego. But he's a cool guy.
But everyone who's in the chat right now, I mean, I can shout out everyone, but I will definitely forget names, and then I will feel regret that I forgot names. So I will just keep it at this.
For sure.
Everyone, guys, you guys are fucking awesome. Seriously.
The love is real for sure. Well, I have taken a little more of your time. I know you said it's not a big deal, but I do need to.
It's no big deal.
Go ahead and get ready to end the call here. I really enjoyed talking with you. I would do this again with no audience.
You too, man. Yeah. I loved it, man. Thank you.
It's been a good time, and we'll talk again
also,
soon.
shout out to Trax. Great host.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And we'll do it again. I plan on doing these as long as I'm possible to. So when that album comes out, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, let's do a listening party.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's also play Apex Legends with IMF.
Yes, I will watch because my computer won't run it apparently, which is
that would be so cool. if in the entirety of IMF like got dumped is like inside of one arena in a game, that would be really fun.
Yeah, that would. Well, awesome.
We must do that
for sure. Well, take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, man.
Peace. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
In every way, Murr was a relaxing presence, and I am grateful for his time today. His boldness, curiosity, and the joy he takes in creating really show in his music. I think a lot of us could get something from his freeing, turn knobs and see what happens approach, and his willingness to spend time with his feelings to help them become works of art for others to enjoy. Please check out the show notes for a link to his music. I promise you will not regret it. Also in the show notes, I will be providing a link to the show's link tree. There you can find all the essential links for the Stay Creative podcast, such as where to listen to new episodes, connecting with us through social media, and listening to some of the outstanding artists and folks who have sponsored the show. The show has no company sponsors, so every opportunity to promote or plug something goes to fellow creatives who have supported the show with their time and resources. One such creative I have had the pleasure of meeting is named Jeff. He runs a podcast called Do Something Nice. I have to say, if you have maybe 15 minutes, you should really check out that show. It offers bite-sized episodes featuring stories of kindness, uplifting quotes, and even tips on ways to bring a little more kindness into the world around you. Be sure to check out next week's show. We will be recording a live interview with a UK rock band called Into the Red. They are pretty spectacular, I gotta say. They have rather adventurous, almost progressive rock songs. It's good. I don't want to spoil too much. We will get into it pretty hard next week. And until then, please stay courageous, stay curious, and stay creative.